So this is a song that I started writing a while ago. I don't remember exactly how long I spent on just this intro. I think it was probably more than an hour. I was very picky about, usually what I would do is I would say, what I do is I pick like a basic kind of chord progression that I want to use, where I'll say this section has this chord, and then this section has a different chord. This section has a chord, this section has a chord, and then I kind of pick the chords for each section, for a few measures. Usually it's like 4 at a time. Sometimes if I'm if I'm using more of like kind of like a formulaic type thing where I'm sort of using ideas that have been tried in the past, and then I'm just like inserting a progression that's been used before or something similar to what's been used before, and then I'm making the notes, the individual notes are totally unique, but the progression is something that I've seen before in other music. And and then I might have like a sequence of 8 where the progression has been picked from somewhere else, and then I'm changing the individual notes within the progression. Or sometimes I come up with my own progressions in terms of the chords, where I'm just messing around on the guitar and I'm playing something and I figure out that I like it, so then I put it into the program, and then I sort of pick around the notes to figure out what goes good with it. Like like if I want to put like a C major right here, like this, and then I want to go from C major to D minor, like this. So what I have is C major to D minor, and then I want to go to G minor, and I want to go back to D minor, and then I'm kind of I don't know, that doesn't sound too great, to be honest. Let's try it like this. Is that the best? I don't know. It's not, I think it's terrible. So let's say, if I play it with a slide on the guitar, usually this kind of sounds okay. So let's try it with a slide. Just kind of mess around here with the time signatures of the notes. So let me think. Think about how I've played this in the past on the guitar to make it sound good. And I'm going to try to replicate it right now. It sounds like trash. Let's try to make it better. See what happens. So we're going to get like a that's ridiculous. Okay. Okay, so after I do the G minor, I'm trying to remember this is a bebop. This is a bebop scale, and I think that I can go to a D chord here. So there you go. That's kind of something that is kind of cool. Or not. Let's try it with a do a stop. something like this. Okay, so this kind of, to me, sounds okay. It's kind of psychedelic. So think about what the chords that I'm actually using here are. So I'm going from a G minor to what is like a D sus4, I believe. So I'm dropping the D back 1, 2, 3 spaces. So I have a website that will tell me exactly what the chord is, but if I go to the website, then the recording will stop. So I'm going to do it the slower way, which is to use the program. This is kind of a less efficient way of doing it. Okay, so it's a A sus4. No, it's a D sus2. So the D sus4 would have been, I don't know. Okay, so it's a D sus2. So I'm going 1, 2, dropping back. So I guess if I drop the D back to, what is that, like a, so I'm dropping D, so for some reason I thought the D was on this note. It's actually right here. So if I go the D6, so I drop back from B to A sharp, I think it, let's try that, see what happens. No, I'm wrong. Okay, well I guess I'm just wrong about this. But so it's a D sus2, or an A sus4 is the same as a D sus2. So that's why I was thinking it's the D sus4. So A sus4 is the same as D sus2. So it's the F sharp is the note that we don't want, that's making it sound bad. Okay, so I'm saying that, you know, G minor, and then an E and an A is fine. So what I'm doing is I'm dropping back 1, 2, 3, and then I'm dropping back 1. Dropping back 1, 2, 3, I'm dropping back 1, and I'm leaving this middle note kind of the same. So if I want to return to the same, I go forward 3 and then forward 1. Okay, so what I can do, what if I drop back 3? So I get 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So that's kind of the same. So 1, 2, 3, and then back 1. So I'm going to leave this, and then I'm going to go back 3 and then back 1. So I'm going to do the same drop again, the same number of spaces. I'm just going to do the drop with different notes. So I'm dropping the same distance, but I'm dropping different notes the same distance. So it was a 0, 0, 1. So I'm going to try that. So is this good or bad? Let's try this. No, we don't want that. So this is better. So what I'm trying to do, my goal is to create something that is unique, that doesn't sound like anything that anyone has ever heard before. Because to write a song that sounds exactly like what you've already heard is pointless, right? So the objective is to create something that is unique. So this sounds a bit off. Let's try it like that. So just the concept of, so I'm going to try it without just like using the whole chord, and I'm going to just kind of throw in the individual notes, where we want to demonstrate the fall from G to E here. We want that to be present, so what I want to do is this. Right, so we have the fall from the G to the E, and that's seen there. And then we also maybe want, so maybe we start with a bass note, then the second note is going to be the high note, and then maybe we go to the, so we're going to demonstrate here the fall from the A sharp is not actually falling back at all, so this note can just be carried through potentially, and then we also want to demonstrate the drop from the D to the C sharp. So D here through to the C sharp. So let's see. So that's kind of cool. Sounds like something out of a movie, maybe. So then the next fall, there'd be no change for this high note, but there would be a change for here would drop down to there, and this change would drop back one, and then this would be the same, but I did it in the wrong order. I want to keep the same order there. Okay, so I'm dropping back the same distance each time, and I have a pause here in the middle. So this is where I would put like a drum kick, is during this pause. So then the drum kick would be loud, and it would be separating the triad of notes. So that's something that makes sense just mathematically. Maybe doesn't sound the best. So let's just continue like this. So this was my first. So the change from here to the G minor was, so it's going forward 2 and then just 1 here. So it looks like this drop back here, I just kind of, so there's a change of one note. So I'm trying to just, so kind of what I have here is just, dropping out from the F to the E. Let's put this in here. So from here to here sounds okay. This isn't too bad. The next thing that I would kind of do is whoops, I want to include that. So just do like this. Rid of that stuff. So another thing that I can try to do is I can use the so here we're going 2, 0, 1, and here I'm going 3, 0, 1. So I can go again 2, 0, 1, and then I can go 3, 0, 1. Back again. So the E goes D sharp D, and C sharp. So, C sharp would be here. So I only wanted the drop of 2 this time, actually. So the E is going to go just D sharp D. So it's going to be a D. And then, a drop of 0, and then also a drop of 1. So I can put the drop of 1 here and the drop of 0 here. Or I can drop from a B to an A sharp. So I can put an A sharp here, and then the drop of 0 can come from the G sharp. So I put a G sharp here. So I can kind of do it a couple of different ways. And it's essentially the same drop, it's just with different notes. So this, this is the same drop, it's just different notes. So check these out and see what happens there. So it sounds like what I'm missing is a nice bass line that's going to come through here. Let's keep the C there. Okay, so kept the C, and then C. What do I want my bass line to be? With a D minor and then a G minor. They both have a D note. You can have the D come, through like that. That's the deepest that I can play a D on this instrument. So, I could add another instrument over here and have it be a bass track. So let's do that. Acoustic bass. Let's keep it acoustic. And then I forgot where the view, multi-track view. I get my acoustic bass here. Let's find, here we are. So you can add some acoustic bass. Let's get the tuning going. For the acoustic bass. So I haven't used this program in a while. I don't remember exactly where the tuning is. Oh, so I can actually plug in. So actually, okay, this is a new feature on Guitar Pro 7. This feature did not exist on Guitar Pro 6. Okay, so what I can do is I can manually put in the next bass line without actually knowing the tuning or having to look, because what I used to have to do is look up the tuning and then just like guess or like plug the tuning in from over here. What I can do now is I can hop over to here, so I need a pause. So pause there, and then we're gonna find a D area. Yeah, D. So it's the D right here. So this one's gonna go through like that. So again, like if I wanted to, I can say, let's have a C, and then let's have an F. Right. And then I can make something that sounds exactly like every other song you've heard in your entire life. But I prefer this. Okay. Oh, I have this muted. So, I can make something just the same chords you hear in like 80% of the songs that you probably have heard, but that's boring. So I don't want to do it that way, because that's what, it's just stupid and it's boring. And all you have to do is just look up which chords, are used in the song you like, and then you write a song that is similar, and it's probably something people will like, but it's boring. You're just like plugging in the answers after looking them up, and you're not actually doing something that is unique and creative. So this is the progression that is used up here. So this up here is showing the chords, from this part. So that's pretty cool, okay? So this is a chord progression that I came up with all by myself. I didn't look this up anywhere. This is just from my own brain, okay? So, I think I would rather listen to this So if you're a guitar player, you can kind of it shows you the chords that you should be playing at any particular moment. So if you're playing this on guitar, this is how you'd have to hold your fingers. So it's not easy, and I did write it. It's my song. I didn't take it from anywhere. So this is the song that I wrote. So usually your pointer would be up here, and then like your pinky would be down here, and your ring finger would be down here. Your middle finger would kind of be in this zone. So I'd play this with my... So I was just, if I'm going through and I'm saying how would I play each part. This is the chords. This is the individual. So what you're seeing right now is the chords. So if I was playing this on guitar, that's how I'd have to play the chords. This... So, you know, I prefer this to CFG for days, but everyone has their own preferences. So that's kind of cool. So I can do this twice, and then I can change this last chord to match, to kind of so I'm missing, I think that this is two, let's see. So we have 1 here, 2, 3. So what I need maybe is like a bass. Let's get rid of this, and then we'll do the, you know, so that will get me to here, and then that will get me past this part. So the next part is to put in a bass line that is not confusing and is also, you know, it's not disorienting, but it also goes along with this. So what I would normally do that would make sense is to put the bass at this pause, at the stop right here, right? So you know, what that means is that I need to change these notes and then make these like that, and then the bass would come in there, and you know, this length here, and then we also have, you know, the bass coming in there, and then, you know, so this next one would be right here. That's interesting. That. So I have a couple of bass notes that I can put in there. So I may be able to, I'm going to use this thing to pick out, you know, so G sharp, D, A sharp. Let's go with a D. To turn the volume up. So I think that I can add another bass in over here. It won't be too terrible. So we could go to G sharp to D. Shorten this and then lengthen this. So what sounds good on the bass is if you have like a palm mute. So what do I have here? What is this? So that's a D sharp. But it doesn't really go with the chords that I have there. What I have there is a, you know, a E, a B, and an A sharp. So what I've played is a D, a G sharp. So I'm pretty safe on whichever, you know, whichever one of these I'm going to use. So I think, you know, let's try the A sharp. I think I need to let that note carry. And then just get this here like that, and put the palm mute on there again. Kind of increase the tempo here. That. And then let's get a little stop. So that's kind of a cool bass line. Let's turn it down a bit. It's a little bit loud. So should I put, I think that I just am going to leave the bass out for this part here. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, no. Okay, so extend that. This keeps taking, so I have to put a note in. It's going to keep, okay. So what we have here is you have one whole note. You have one whole note there. You have a third there, so this needs to be like that. What? 1, 2, 3, okay. That. Perfect. So I have to get rid of that. So what I want, I think, is to have these notes going at the same time. Okay, so, you know, it's 1, 2, it's exactly 3. So it would be right here. So I'm going back to the D minor at that point. You know, so I can play a D again, and we can have the bass, you know, go G sharp D, A sharp D, and that might be something that sounds good. So that, whoops. Let's get this guy here. That. Okay, so I can extend this note out like that, but I don't know if that's going to sound good. So that's, this spot here is still kind of bad. Right here. This kind of sounds interesting. So I could make the bass line cooler. I could add in, let me see. So what happens, you know, C sharp, A sharp, so A sharp, so you know, I think that I may be able to add in a C sharp here, and it won't really make much of a difference. It might sound kind of cool. Yeah, it's cool. Okay, so we want another note right here. And up here we have the B. There's a B playing. And we also have an E and also an A sharp. So you have a B, an E, or an A sharp. So let's try the A sharp. There you have that. So there it is. So we want another note right here. So this is a D, and then we also, there's an F and there's an A. There's another D. So put the F. Let's try with the F. So let's try it like that, and we'll return to the initial note. And then we'll copy and paste this section, and we'll try to repeat. We'll do a repeat, and then we will potentially adjust certain notes. So we definitely want to adjust the notes there. Probably starting here, we want to change something. So what we have up here is we have the drop that is 2, 1, 0, and then we have a drop that is 2. So there's a drop of 2, there's a drop of 2, there's a drop of 1. So what I have is a drop of 2, a drop of 1, a drop of 0. Then I have a drop of 1, a drop of 2, and a drop of 2 again. Oh no, that's not true. So what it is one of the drops is being seen twice. So what I did is I did a similar drop here, but because I applied the drop to different notes, so if I drop, so I'm dropping backwards. So what I'm doing is I'm dropping backwards. So the drop here is actually seen in this note, I believe, because I'm dropping like F, E, D sharp. So this is a G sharp. So how did I do this? Let's get rid of this, and then we'll pull up the guitar from here. So this, this F drops back here. So the 1 drop is an E, 2 drop is a D sharp, 3 drop is a D. So what did I do? So here I have a C sharp that drops to a B. So here's the drop of 2. And then A sharp drops to the G. So what I have here, is a drop of 2, a drop of 1. And then what I wanted to do is a drop of 2, or I wanted to do a similar drop to what I had done before. That's what my intention was. Somehow I did something, and I don't remember what it is or how that I did it. So what I want to do is figure out the logic that I used to do this part from here to here, and then kind of do a similar logic to the next drop that I'm including. So, this is drop of 2, drop of 1, drop of 0, drop of 2, drop of 1. So why do I have a drop of 2? I did 2 drops of 2 instead of 1 drop of 2. So that's kind of interesting. Let me see. So what I have is A sharp, B, G sharp. So what I did is, in the bass line, I did it with the A sharp. But for some reason up here, I did it with the G sharp. So let's listen to it this way. Then we'll listen to it like this. So that sounds, honestly to me, this sounds better. Even if I did it by accident. So, you know, this, we definitely want that in there. It sounds better to me. So what I did is, you know, I dropped the 2, dropped 2, dropped 2, dropped 1. Okay, so I drop 2, drop 1, drop 1, drop 2, drop 2. So drop 2, drop 1, drop 1, drop 2, drop 2. Okay, so what I want to do next, let's check this out over here. Like that. So I'll go back to the bass line. So what I want here, I want to extend this out, and then I want to, you know, have this here, and then I'll connect here. So I want this bass note to come in earlier. I think that sounds good. So what I want to do is edit this bass line on the second run. I don't want it to sound exactly the same. So we do like that. So you kind of have, oops. So I wanted like that. So you have kind of the reverse pattern for these first 2 notes. And then I can do the same, reverse the pattern on these notes, like that. So these, I can't really reverse anything in here. What I can maybe do is link these 2 notes like that. So now I have kind of a cool bass line. So the reality is I may not even keep this part up here. So I can't even do the if I studied it, I could learn to play it, but it would take a long time. So do I even want to keep this lead up here, or do I just want to keep the bass line? So I can try to mess around with this lead and, you know, figure out which notes are not pleasing to the ear. So maybe it's all of them that are not pleasing to the ear, but what I'm going to start with is I'm going to reduce the volume of all of them and then pick certain ones to make louder. Okay, so what's happening is both of the tunes are overlapping each other. You don't ever want 2 tunes to overlap each other. What you want is you want there to always be one instrument that is seen as the louder lead instrument. The other ones should be kind of floating in the background where you can still hear them, but they're not interfering with your listening ability. So if you're hearing 2 things of equal noise level, it's hard to listen to both of them at the same time. So you can focus on this or you can focus on this, but if you try to focus on both at the same time, it's like your brain explodes. So what we want to do is we want to make this kind of smoothly just fading, hiding in the background, you know, as opposed to, so what I want, I'm going to extend these notes, you know, to make them longer like this, you know, and then I'm going to see if that, so before I was just kind of tapping them, now, you know, I'm holding them, right. Let's try that. So that already sounds better. So this one can be louder, I think. Let's try it like this. So try it like that. Let's get a palm mute. I'm still not getting the sound that I want from that. So let's just try to take out these, like, what did I do? Okay. Oops. So this note here doesn't fit. So this, I can't hold this note. So there's some kind of a, you know, compositional thing where these two chords are mixing and it doesn't sound good. So I have to get rid of that part there. And then, you know, probably, you know, theoretically there's some chords that you can kind of mix and it still sounds okay. Okay, so I'm going to try and find a point where it doesn't stop sounding good. So I have this do-do-do, do-do-do, do-do-do-do, do-do-do, do-do-do, do-do-do-do, do-do-do, do-do-do, do-do-do. So I'm already changing it when I get to over here. So it doesn't sound like, you know, even if I'm playing the same notes, it still sounds different at that part. You know, so what I can even do is I can like add a different synthesizer to this part as opposed to this part, you know, and then that will, you know, even do something else. So I'll do, you know, what you can do on an electric guitar is you can have like a whammy bar, but I can't remember how to use it. It's been a while since I've used this program. So there's like some kind of a thing I can do here. So it's vibrato. So you hear so it already sounds different. So, you know, it's kind of cool. So what's important is that it doesn't sound like anything else that other people are listening to, you know, or writing or whatever. So if I just, you know, look at the chords of a Taylor Swift song, you know, and then plug them in here, and then just start, you know, adding notes, it's not going to be something that is going to do anything, you know, because people are just going to say that sounds like that Taylor Swift song, you know. So what I can do is I can, you know, I can continue if I want, you know, I can continue this kind of thing, and I can add another section in here, like this, and then I can keep the same chords, like basic chords, but I can switch around, you know, the bass line, you know, I can play 3 different notes at this first location on the bass line. And, you know, and I can play 3 different notes at this location. I can play 3 different notes here. I can play 3 different notes here. You know, I can play 3 different notes at all these spots. So what I can do is just, you know, here I have, you know, I'm starting with a G sharp. And then up here, you know, I have, let's see, you know, A sharp, a D, and a G. Right, so like, for this bass line, what I can do is I can take out one of these notes here, and I can put it into the bass line, and then I can substitute a different note here to replace it, and it will already sound different. Right, so if I could do it like this, where I make this, you know, the G sharp, and then here I can put in a G, and it already sound different. So you have like kind of the psychedelic aspect up here in the high notes as opposed to in the deep notes. You know, so it's kind of a scary thing, and then the scary part kind of goes away, right? So, you know, we could add another kind of scary part over here if we wanted to. So I feel like I need a note here to lead into this part. Okay, so what I can do, let's see, let's try it like this. Oops. Uh-oh. Like this. Okay. That was weird. Why did that? Oh, it's had the volume turned up on that note. So what I did is, you know, in this first section, I put the kind of psychedelic note up here in the high notes. The second section, I have it down here in the bass. But I'm playing the same progression the whole time. So, you know, what I can do is I can say, I don't want the song to change yet. This part is really cool, and I want to keep this part. So what I can do is I can mess around with stuff like that, where I'm switching these bass notes with these high notes. What I could do is I could switch this guy with this guy up here, and then, I've already made this first section sound different in both parts. And the next thing I can do is I can make the section, this part sound. So, really, if I was writing music and I actually wanted to make money with it, what I would do is I would make several different, I would do probably 10 or 12 of these, as possible options for, how to arrange the song. So this would be one possible option. This would be one possible, these two together would be one possible option. These two together would be another possible option. So what I would do is I would, do a bunch of these where I'm just messing around and putting notes in random spots and just hoping that I hit something that sounds really good. And then I would bring this in and I would say, I'd have three or four other people who would listen to it, and then they would say, this one was really good and this one was okay, and this one. So what I would do is I'd pick the three best ones or the four best ones, and then I would kind of use those for that section of the song. And then I would leave out the ones that people didn't like so much. Right. So, the tough part of writing music is I can only, I write what I think sounds good. I don't know what other people think sounds good, so what I can do is I can say, I really like this, So there's the point where I think it sounds kind of awkward is maybe at this section back here. But that doesn't mean that this is poorly written. It just means that I may need to change the notes up here to adapt to this back section. So this back section could still have value. It requires that some of these notes up here change to make the transition smoother. Because usually, if you have something that is just sounds really bad all of a sudden, it's because you have a really just rough transition. So it's possible to smooth out the transition and then make this part not sound so bad. Or what I could do is I could take this part out entirely and then just write a new part that matches the first section. So that's another choice that I would have to make is do I want to keep this section back here? So let's listen to this section back here just by itself. There's my repeat there, okay. So I'm hearing this and I'm thinking this isn't the best. I don't really want that part, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out that note and see if it sounds okay. So let's do this. Okay, because I know I had a reason why I put this note in. So I definitely, having a note right here is fine. I think I just put the incorrect note in. So I'm going to try this note. So, that's a C. So I'm playing a G. There is a C included in this bebop scale. I'm pretty confident about that. Let me think. So what this bebop scale is a bebop scale is when you have a G and a G minor. And what it does is it sort of connects two separate scales. So I believe, it would connect a scale that, and what it would have is the bebop scale would be identical. So it's two scales that only differ by two chords. So if you have an A scale and a D scale, the A scale and the D scale only differ by two chords. So the bebop scale just simply adopts those two scales, combines them, and then what you have is you kind of have four chords that don't necessarily fit in with all of the other chords. So then what you do is you can use, so the bebop's a normal scale would have I think so it would have 6 chords, and then the bebop scale would combine two 6-chord scales. So it's 12, but it would take out 4 of them because they don't really fit. So what you have is you have like an 8-chord scale, and that's what a bebop scale is. So, in the bebop scale, I can have a G and also a G minor, or, I could have a D and a D minor, and it would just be a different bebop scale. So the bebop scale means you can play 8 different chords. The normal scale means you can play 4 different chords. So the bebop scale is usually used for, it's usually like jazzy hip hop kind of stuff, is with a bebop scale. So there's some bands that like to use bebop scales. One of them is Rush, like the 70s, 80s, 90s band. Also 2000s band with Geddy Lee as the lead singer. They like to use bebop scales. And the guitarist Alex Lifeson, he really likes the bebop scales on his guitar. It's really easy to play bebop scale as well, because you have several locations where you can do like a slide of an entire chord in several different locations. So it allows you to change chords very quickly. If you have a chord change where you have to reposition your fingers by a very large amount, you can't change chord as quickly. So with the bebop scale, on the guitar you can change the chord very quickly, like very rapidly. So it means you can play some really cool, catchy stuff on the guitar. Anyway, so this is still kind of weird in this kind of back section. So I don't know. This isn't like gold, but this isn't like amazing. But it's still okay, and like I can mess around with this for, a few hours, like on a weekend or something, and then, and I can kind of change around, like I can find the spot where it sounds fishy and I don't like it. So it's like kind of right in here where it kind of gets weird. And then, I can kind of change around. I tried to make it weird on purpose, but I think it's a little bit weirder than I was hoping, It's weird to the point where I don't know where to go from here. Like where do I, after this point, what do I do with the song? So what I would need to do is like do some in-depth music theory stuff, where I'm saying, like what I did up here is I picked chords first, and, and it was based on some, let me think. So, this is, let's see if I can figure out the scale that we're in. It looks like just a C major scale. This is a 1, this is a 2, this is a 3, so you have a 1, 3, 6, 5. 3, 6, 1. And then the B minor is not ordinarily in the C. So what it looks like is that I switched, so I am using a bebop scale in this section. And I switched, the scale. So it looks like if I'm introducing a B minor, that means that I'm kind of combining 2 different scales at this part, just like by analyzing what I did. Because I don't always remember why I wrote the song in a certain way. But see here. Okay. So we want G, B minor, E minor. And C. So it looks like what I did is because when you have like a normal chord progression with 6 chords, what you have is you have like a 1, this is the 1 chord, this is the 3 chord, this is the 6 chord, this is the 5 chord. So what this is a 1, 3, 6, 5. 1, 3, 6, 5. And what you do is you could try 1, 3, 6, 4, which is something that I've done before. 1, 3, 6, 4. 1, 3, 6, 4. What I did here is 1, 3, 6, 5. So I could try 1, 6, 4, 3, and I could do it a bunch of different ways until I find something, that sounds okay. What I can also do is I can write like a lead line. Let's try to write like a lead line here. And what you have to do is you really you have to have, the best way to do it is with an actual instrument, but I don't actually have an instrument here. So I'm going to go, you got a G sharp, E. So you have to kind of know the scale that you're in to be able to write something. So in the C scale, so let's go, I'll do a scale that I know, right? So we can kind of do A, so with an A we can play a C, we can also play an E. If I'm playing the C, then I'm trending towards a C major scale. If I'm playing an E, then I'm trending towards like an A major scale. Right, so what I would do is I would pick up my guitar and I would play something, and it would be like a lead line. And then what I would do is I would put the lead line into this program, by plugging in so what this is like, this is the face of the guitar. It's a 4-string bass. So, if I'm playing the very top string just as like without even touching the guitar, if I'm just strumming the guitar without even touching the strings, this is what the sound would make. So if I slide my finger down 1 space, it would go to here, 2 spaces would go to here, 3 spaces would go to here. Right, so that's kind of how this thing goes. So, if I'm playing down here for like a guitar solo, maybe I'm using these notes. Right, so it's kind of just dependent upon, playing something. So what I like to do when I'm writing a song is I like to start with like a hammer on, or I start with a slide. So I would do like a slide down to here. So it'd be like, so I do like play this note, and then I do like a hammer on, and then I would slide down to here. And then I would like slide back up to here, and and then I would incorporate a bass note or something like that. Where I'm trying to make each part of the song interesting, right? So I have I play a quick note, and then I have a hammer on, and then I return to this note and I slide down, and then I slide back up, and then I head to the bass notes, and then I play a full chord, and then I do the same thing, except for this time I'm going to have slide on the first note, and then a hammer on here, and then maybe a slide back up like that, right? So I'm kind of doing, I'm thinking of it like an amusement park where this part's fun, to jump across like that is kind of fun, and then to slide down to here from there, like slide down like that, that's kind of fun. And then, I slide back up to here, and then I jump up here to the bass, and then I play across all the strings like this in a strum, and then I have this second slide that's going to go like that. So that's kind of how I'm thinking about it when I want to write something, is, to keep every single part interesting. So if I want to do a slide, where can I slide to? I can slide to a C. I can slide from A to C, like this. Right, slide from A to C. So the next thing that I want, so I want to slide and a hammer on. So I can do a hammer on G to A. So I can go A, C, G, A. So what I want is another bass here. You know, so I kind of do something like that, and I'll find a lead that I like, and I'll put in the lead that I like, and then I will find the chords that go with that lead. And then I will kind of expand from there onwards, you know. Let's continue like that, and then so here's something that I kind of wrote. Just so what I did is I just picked chords. You know, what I did is I would say, usually what I do is I say, does the transition of these three chords sound good? So I'd just start with three chords. Right, so I wouldn't start with this part. Okay, so what I do is I would, you know, just start with these here. So I just start with this. You know, and then I would say like these three. So a lot of this comes with knowledge of where I've studied a lot of music. I've listened to a lot of music, and I've also looked up, you know, what are the chords that go along with that music. So what I know is something that a lot of people enjoy is when you have you know, a major chord that falls back down to a minor chord. So what you want is you want the initial chord, and then you want a major that is in the same scale that is then falling back down to a minor chord. You know, so in general, this is a pattern. Just the C, G to a minor is something that people like. Okay, so something that Corey likes is playing two minor chords at the same time. So what I have is kind of a compromise between, you know, I get to go E minor, A minor, but then I also go G to E minor. So this is the part, you know, that kind of a lot of people like. The part that I kind of like is like this. You know, so I kind of did like a compromise. You know, and then I'm, you know, so I did an F sharp right here. I don't remember why I put the F sharp in. It's just something that pops into your head, and then it works. And I can't really explain why, but it did. Okay, so let's go get rid of this. And so here's a song that I wrote a few days ago. Okay, I remember what I did. Okay, so what you have here is I'm dropping into a new scale. So this F sharp is dropping into a new scale. So you can see here that I go D, F sharp, B minor. Up here there's no D. Okay, so down here what I did is this is a new scale. So the way that you choose, what you do is you pick a scale that has similar chords. So you can see the G is maintained from scale to scale. I also have the B that is, you know, that is maintained across into this next scale. What I have that changed is I have the A sharp and the F sharp. And then, okay, so I figured out the scale that I'm using. Okay, so if I have a B minor and also a B, that means that it is a bebop scale. So that's what I theorized before. Turns out that I'm correct about that. So I'm trying to remember which scale has the B and the B minor. Can't remember which bebop scale it is, unfortunately. But you know, you can pick any bebop scale and you can kind of do the same thing. So what you want to do, the way that I did it, if I can try to describe it here, is, you know, this first section, this entire first section here is the section of the bebops. So this part is in C. right? So this is the half of the bebop scale that is in C. And then you have the other half of the bebop scale down here, you know, that is in, I don't know what scale this is, I don't remember. And then what you have in the middle is, you know, the chords that are contained within both scales. So what a bebop scale, I said before, is it combines two scales. So what I have is I start in only C, and then in the middle I'm transitioning into the chords that are in both of the C and the other scale. And then down here I just transition into only the second scale. So here is I have first scale, and then here, you know, I have the common between the two scales. And then over here, you know, I have only the second scale. Is kind of how I think that I did it. But it's been a couple of months, I think, since I wrote this song, so I can't be entirely confident about that. So this is something like if you put this, you know, if you have good, this is something that is pretty cool and is very unique. I've never heard anything like this anywhere. You know, so this is something where if you put this in, you know, this could be like a hip hop song or something, you know, and this is something that people would like, I think. Right, so what I have is I kind of am combining a classical aspect up here, and then it's kind of moving into more of like a hip hop kind of thing down in here. So let's listen to it again. It's way too loud. So what I can do is I think this would be better with like a keyboard. Whoops. So let's change this nylon guitar. Let's get, whoops. Well, let me change it. So right now it's a blues guitar. Okay, so we go keyboard, acoustic piano. What? Acoustic piano. So let's listen to it as an acoustic piano. So, you know, I don't know. When you're just playing the chords, it's not that great. A lot of times what you do is you play individual notes, and sometimes you say like, this is a little bit much. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out, you know, this note, and then I'm only going to play like the one half of this chord because it's smoother, and then, you know, like maybe I can try to find ways to put that note back in with various instruments, and maybe I can find a way to get that note back in, but maybe I can't. But in general, I'm still going to follow the chord progression, you know, that I kind of picked as something that when I picked the chord progression, I had a logical reason for why I was doing it that way. So even if I don't remember what that reason was, I'm going to just trust that I had a good idea and that I knew what I was talking about when I initially put this in, and I'm just going to stick by this formula that I initially picked for writing the song, right? So as you can see here, you know, the F sharp, this is an F sharp chord up here, but down here I'm only playing, that's a C sharp and then an F sharp right there. Okay, so I'm only playing C sharp, F sharp. So what I took out entirely is the A sharp. So there's no A sharp in this section here. So what I'm playing down here, you know, as I've also completely removed the note that is the A sharp. So this A sharp note doesn't even exist in this part of the song, but I'm playing the other two pieces of the A sharp, which is F and C sharp. Right, so really what I'm playing down here is F C sharp, F sharp, C sharp, dropping down into F C sharp. So that's what this section is down here. It's just F C sharp as like a power chord dropping down into F sharp, C sharp, dropping down into F C sharp. So that's kind of what this is when you hear that. It's like the drop down. Okay, so what I also have here, so I lied. I did put in the A sharp. Okay, so the A sharp is right here. But what I didn't, so I didn't have an A sharp in this first section. So when I'm playing the F sharp, I'm not including the A sharp note, and I'm not including it over here either. And I'm not including it over here. So this F sharp chord, I'm not actually playing the entire F sharp chord. What I'm just playing is F sharp, C sharp as just individual notes. Right. So what I decided is that, you know, having the A sharp was too intense, so I took out the A sharp, and then I was able to put it back in over here because for whatever reason it sounded okay. But I guess going from a G, you know, going from the G major and then playing an A sharp note didn't fit in my brain, so I just took out the A sharp note. So a lot of what you know, writing the songs is you just pick something that makes logical sense. You know, for me, you know, which to me something that makes logical sense is that I'm trying to write songs that don't sound like anything else that I've heard. So that's the first thing that makes logical sense, is that they don't sound like anything else that I've heard. So that's the very first objective, is to make them sound unlike anything that I've heard you know, in other places in music. But that doesn't mean that I can't, you know, use ideas from other artists. It just means that there has to be something unique to everything that I write, right? So like when I'm picking these, you know, for the part that I just wrote here, you know, where I dropped, you know, G minor, D minor, it's like this is an E. So like G minor, D minor, E. That's kind of a weird thing to play, right? Or is this, sorry, it's not an E. I don't even know what this is. So this is a G sharp. So it's not a chord that, so what I did is I just dropped down a certain number of spaces. So, you know, so I dropped down two or three, and then I dropped down one, and then I dropped down 0. So, you know, so I dropped down 2, and then I dropped down 1, and then I dropped down 0. Right, so I'm just like, I'm doing the spaces between the notes as the same, and then what I will find is that, you know, what actually, the way that scale works, you know, is, the way that the scale works is you have different drops. You know, if I'm doing a C major scale, you know, if I put in the first, so what I have here is, let's mute this one. Okay, so, you know, you have a C, you have a G, you have an E. So this is a C major, right? So the second chord of the C major, I believe, is a D minor. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the E up here. Okay, so what you'll see is with a D minor, you drop down 1, you drop down 2, and then you drop down 2. So what the drop from, so, you know, so you have a 1, 2, 2, and that is the drop from the first to the second, you know, and then from D minor you go to E minor, which is a 0, 0, 0. Okay, but I can also write this as a 3, and do a 3 here, you know, and what I have here is the G, so I replace the G, you know, it could be an E, but, you know, the E is actually on the 5 here, you know, so what this is, so I have a G, E, and then what I had here was a B, you know, so the B can also be played on a 4 here, right? So what I have is from the first to the second, I have a 1 drop, 2 drop, 2 drop, and then I have a 2 drop, 2 drop, 2 drop. So to go from a major to a minor is a 1 drop, 2 drop, 2 drop. To go from a minor to another minor is a 2 drop, 2 drop, 2 drop. Okay, so to go from a minor to a major, if we're going to pick the next major chord, which is a F, you know, so if I want to do a F, it's an A note, you know, it's an F note, which is on the 6 here, and then you also have the C note, which is on the 5 here. So to go from a minor to a major is a 2 drop, 1 drop, 1 drop. To go from a minor to a minor is a 2 drop, 2 drop, 2 drop. You know, to go from a major to a minor is going to be a 1 drop, 2 drop, 2 drop. So you have, you know, 2 drop, 1 drop, 1 drop, and then you have, you know, 2 drop, 2 drop, 2 drop. You know, so you can kind of see that there's a pattern to the way in which the chords change. So what you can do when you're when you're playing is if you kind of understand the way in which the scale works. So to go from the fourth to the fifth is from an F to a G, right? So the G is a G, B, and a D, right? So we got to do the C, C sharp, D. So you got the whoops. So this is A. Okay, so we'll go from A sharp, B. So that's 2. So here we have an E. So we want to go from E, F, F sharp, G. So it's actually a 3, a change of 3, right? No, this is an F, sorry. So it's a change of 2. So there's the G. So F, F sharp, G. Okay, so we went A sharp, B. We went F, F sharp, G. And then right here we have the C, which we want to go into a D. So we go C, C sharp, D. So that's another change of 2. So, to go from a major to a major is a change of 2 on every single note. So if I'm playing a minor, I can go forward by 2 in every spot, and it will be the same change that you have within the scale. If I'm playing a major, I can go forward by 2 in every spot, and that will be another major within the scale. So what you have here is if you want to go fourth to fifth, it's just you slide down by 2 on every single finger position. If you want to go from second to third, you slide down by 2 at every finger position, right? So this is if you start to understand, and I can label these. It should be like a with a, there it is. No, so they changed it. Is it this? Okay, so there it is. All right, so it should tell me C/G is the chord, and then this should be a D minor. So D minor / A. What the slash is it's saying what the bass note is. So usually if you have a C chord, you have the bass note as a C. So if I put this in, it will tell me that it's just a C without. So what the /G is saying that the bass note is a G. So this is a D minor with a bass note of A. This is a E minor with a bass note of B. So if I put in the same chord, but I make the bass note as a E, what you will see is that it will drop out the B. So I put in the E here, and the B goes away. So the B is just indicating which is the bass note. So here you have B as the bass note. Here you have E as the bass note. So if I put in G as the, whoopsies. If I put in G as the bass note, it will say E minor /G. If I put in B as the bass note, it will say E minor /B. If I just have E as the bass note, it will just say E minor. So that's what that means. So what I have here is the F/C. Now if I put in F as the bass note, it will just say F, but I'm just going to leave it there. Don't want to mess around with that. So here we have a G/D. Okay, so what this is just a C chord with a G bass note. Let's get rid of that. So here you have, this is the, and then what you have is the sixth is A minor. So what did we say before? Let's see if we can guesstimate. So we went from major to minor. What we had was a drop of 2 from the the lead note, which was the C. So we find which one is the G. I think that this is the G. So we go drop of 2 to 10, and then we had a drop of 2 from the bass note, which was a G. So let's see. I don't know. I think this is interesting because what you have here, the way that this works is you have C, you have G, you have E. So, so what we did is we dropped 2 from the first note, we dropped 1 from the second note, and then we dropped 2 from the third note. Okay, so we're going to drop 1 from the first note, And then the second note, if we're going forward from G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B. So the second note is a B, so we're going to drop down 2 from the B. So this is the B. You go, to the second note, which was the E. We drop down 1, sorry. So from the B, we drop down 1. And then from the third note, which is the D, we drop down 2. See the third note, which is the G here. So C first note, E second note, G third note. This is the C chord. So the third note was the G. So from the G we drop down 2. So we find the third note of this chord is the D, which is right here. So we're going to drop down 2 is 9. Okay. So what we're saying is I'm saying that this is going to be the A minor. So that's my theory. That was kind of cool. Whatever. Maybe not. Alright, so I didn't really want to, play those at the same time because this is something completely unrelated. Alright, so this is, my theory is that this will be an A minor because I use the same steps. I'm saying that if I go from major to minor, it's the same steps, and I put those same steps over here. So let's see if it's an A minor. And it is. It's an A minor with an E as a bass note. Right? So, if you kind of learn drop of 1, drop of 2, drop of 2. So if you kind of learn these, that you can start to figure out how to improvise when you play. If you're going from a major to a major, what you have here is from the first to the fourth is just a straight drop of 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then from the fourth to the fifth is just a drop of 2. Right, so from second to the third is a drop of 2. From third to the sixth is just a straight drop of 5. So now you know how to move around between these different chords. So what if I say, what if I switch this up and I decide that I'm going to make F my number 1 chord? So what is the next? So if F is going to be my number 1 chord, then G is my number 2. So what is, or G is, sorry, my 4th. Or no, what am I doing? So if F is my number 1, my number 2, would be a drop of 1, a drop of 2, and a drop of 2. So this would have to change to a drop of 1. So what chord is this? Let's find out. So what I did is I go like this. Move that up. So it's an E minor 7th. Okay, so if I switch the F into the first position and then I continue the progression as if this were the first chord, I suddenly get this E minor 7th chord. So let's try listening to this. Oopsies. Let's do it like this. So what I can do is I can just suddenly say I'm making this the first, and then I'm continuing forward. So it still sounds okay, right? So what I did is I switched to a scale of F. So I started in a scale of C, and then right here I switched to a scale of F. Right? So what happens here is this becomes the minor second of the F scale, which is the same as the, or wait. So what I have to do is I have to switch this like that. So this becomes the, no wait. So this is the minor second of the F scale. So the minor third of the F scale is the same as the minor sixth of the C scale. So you can see that the F scale and the C scale have very similar chords. Okay, so let's switch to what is the minor third of the F scale. So we do a drop of 2, we do a drop of 2, we do a drop of 2, right? So let's listen to this. So what I'm doing is I'm playing a C/F scale. Okay, Okay, so what is the fourth of the F scale? So you remember that, the change is a drop of 2, and a drop of 1, and then a drop of 1. So you can see it's kind of an interesting thing, and it all kind of adds up. And as long as you keep doing this, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to say pick this fourth. What is this? This is back to a C, right? Yeah, so the fourth of the F scale is back to a C. So this will continue if I follow this same formula, it will circulate around. So let's so this is an idea that I've used in the past. So what I got is a B minor. So you can see that this B minor up here suddenly shows up from the C scale. So that may be why I did that. Something similar to this. Because this is kind of a similar logic that I used when I wrote this song up here. Okay. So we go back to the C. Okay. So, so we have a C, D minor, E minor, F, G, A minor, B minor, C. So I can say that this is my progression, and it will repeat continuously, and it will be a solid loop that never stops. Right? So back to the C. So I can make this so we don't have to keep getting higher. I can put this this F, I can play it as a lower, I can play lower F that is right here, right? So so let's make it so that we're not just going higher, higher, higher. We're kind of having a circular pattern where we're going low, middle, high, high, middle, low. So I'm going to play the F right here, and then I can play the G. Right here is a lower G. And then this was the B minor. So I got to make these bigger so I can see them. Okay, so this is the A minor. So let's put the A minor like this. And then the B minor is going to be like this. Right? Is that wrong? No, it's like this. So that's a B minor. Let's make sure. What? Yeah, B. Oh, whoops. Good thing I checked. Okay, so it should be a 2, 3, 4, not a 1, 2, 3. Then we can go back to the C. And I can play the same C or I can play a different C. It really doesn't matter too much. What I'm trying to do is see. So this stuff, so the 5 comes in here, like that. Just get these in there. Let's not do it that way. Okay, so and then we put these in back there. So let's listen to it like this. Oopsie. Okay. So that's like, it doesn't really sound that great, to be honest, but it's something, So what I'm doing is I'm switching to the F scale at this point, and then I'm switching to the F scale at this point. So you got a C scale, and then you got an F scale, and then you got a C scale. And then, so at this F chord is where the two scales are overlapping. So it's kind of a similar theory that I used with these over here. It's pretty cool. So let's listen to this one again. Right. So what we have is both of these sound cool, like individually, right? At least to a certain extent. I think there's a little bit missing in this area, maybe. What I can do is I can, overlap those. Oops, did the wrong button again. So that's kind of cool. So what we want to do is find a way to make these, because these are the same notes, like from the chord perspective, these should go together. Not this one. Just these. Right. So how do we make it so that we can play both of these at the same time? So that's the real challenge of writing music, is not in finding something that sounds kind of cool to listen to like this. Right. So what you need, what is happening is that this is way too full, way too many notes for me to have this playing at the same time. So what I have to do is I have to clean out some of the notes up here, right? But what I like is, I think that this still sounds good, independent of anything else. So what I want to do is I want to include both of these. So I'm going to try to do is, like, let's put this up here. Oops. Like, let's put these separately. So they play after each other instead of at the same time. Or not. Oops. So what I like to do in the music is I will trade off. I will play this, and then I will play this afterwards, so that they're not playing at the same time. Right? So what it becomes is like a dueling banjos kind of dynamic. Right? So let's go cut. And let's get this guy back over there. And then we want to insert another space here. We'll put it in the wrong spot. Let's give it insert over here behind that. And we put it up here. Whoops. Just put it on this 12 string. So let's listen to the alternating. So what I want is this guy down here. I'll put it like that. You know, so maybe that's not the best. I'm not like really invested into making this song super good. What I'm trying to do is make a commentary, you know, while writing the song at the same time, which really takes away from my concentration of being able to focus on putting in the correct notes. But the purpose here isn't to write a good song, it's just to demonstrate kind of how I write music, you know. So what really sounded good to me, if there's anything to be kind of salvaged from this whole kind of experiment, is maybe just this bass line. Right? So let's say, you know, let's put this on a wind instrument, the bassoon. So if I have it on the bassoon, it may make space for this other instrument. So what I can do is with the bassoon, I can take out the palm mute, because the palm mute is only, you know, it really only sounds good on the guitar. So instead of having the palm mute, I will just connect the notes. And then over here, I will connect these notes. So in the spot where these notes are connected, I can include this part. So what I will do is I will make this very quiet, and then I will jump in with this here. And then the next, you know, I can also leave this here and then make this part very quiet. So let's listen to that. Let's make this a little bit louder. So what I need here is, you know, turns out this isn't going to work. Let's do a cello. So that's kind of cool. We can also attach an amplifier to it. I don't remember how. Actually, I don't think I can because I have the acoustic bass on. So there's no amplifier. So what I want to do is I want to have these, you know, let's take it off the steel guitar. Let's put it on a harp. It's easier to listen to. Right, so you have something that sounds kind of okay, but it still needs to be worked on a lot. There's still a lot of things that need to change up here to fill in, because we want to fill in the blank spaces that are contained within the cello. So what you see is that it's possible to have something in the background that will sound good with this, right? So what I can do maybe is, let's listen to this. Let's put them all at the same volume. So let's listen to them together. So maybe it's not really working. So doesn't really fit. Let's try a different instrument. Because there's gonna, sometimes you just need the right instrument, you know, to make it fit together. Viola. So this doesn't sound bad by itself, right? It's really what you really just have to do a lot of experimentation, you know. So maybe you know, it's maybe I'm thinking that it sounds worse than it actually does. So what I have up here, let's play this one again. Let's go to this one. So you can see that these could potentially go together, right? So it's supposed to sound like terrifying, right? It's really supposed to sound very scary, you know, like you're dying almost. But it has to start out beautiful, and then it turns dark. So it's really supposed to be very, you know, climactic. It's the inspiration here is, you know, obviously like a classical type composition. So, you know, there needs to be a lot of stuff that is put in between these two sections to make this work, obviously. But, you know, if you can see that it has potential to kind of become the same song. So, you know, this is something. So it's intentionally, you know, this note at the end is intentionally, it's not supposed to be a happy ending. It's intentionally a unhappy or a, you know, you're not sure if it's good or bad. That's what this is supposed to indicate. So it's intentionally, it's not supposed to be happy. Okay, it's sad on purpose. So it's supposed to incite a confusion and like a terror, like a sense of impending doom is what this is supposed to incite within you. So what I need to do is change this last, and there's something that is missing from this last chord where the fear is going away. So this is like kind of scary and we're not sure, and then the resolution is a little bit too happy. So I need to change this resolution here. So you know, it sounds, you know, there's things that are kind of in conflict, they're fighting, they're running around, you know, they're battling. So it's kind of like a battle going on here, right? So what did I do? So I did a viola. Let's do a rock viola. That's too much. It won't work. So we go back to a viola. We'll do a picked viola. So that's a little bit better in terms of the sound of the picked viola. You know, what I can change this to, the picked viola I think sounds pretty on point. You know, what I might need to do is to kind of shift all of these notes backwards to cover this whole, because what I have is I have a big blank spot here that needs to kind of be covered, so I may need to shift this stuff backwards. Right, so it may not be wise to have the pause at the same spot, you know, so I can kind of fill this blank spot in here with something. So let's just repeat this over and over again. So what I'm hearing, what this sounds like to me, you know, when I listen to this sounds like a very short sequence in like a thriller, you know, like a The Shining, you know. That's what it sounds like to me. So let's do this again. So what I want to do is I want to let's take this. We're going to make this into a bunch of individual notes. So we're going to, you know, let's go like that. So we'll have the A note here. We're going to put the D note there, and then so we also want an F note, you know, that is maybe coming in right there. Maybe back to this. Then you can, you know, you have kind of a drop here. I can make this something maybe. So let's listen to this top part. So you can see it's kind of, it sounds very climactic, right? So what I can do is like, we'll just take this out, you know, and then I can kind of do a similar pattern to what I had over here where I can, you know, stretch these. Oops. So I want to copy, oopsies. So I need to do the shift key here, copy, you know, and then paste these in like that. Just extend, and then, you know, let's make it a pattern. This. So what I'll start with is a very basic kind of linear pattern, and then I may change it to make it more climactic. So what we have here is we have low, high, middle, low, high, middle, you know, low, high, low, middle, low, high, middle, middle. So it's very, it's not, there's not like, the only thing that happens twice is right here. So, you know, you have twice, and then what you have here is you have just like a low, middle, high, high, middle, low, middle. So, you know, this might be a little bit, it might not be climactic enough. Right. So it sounds to me like I'm going to try it and see if it works. See, so it sounds, this doesn't work already. Okay, so what I need to do is I need to put this here, like